Hello fight fans and welcome back to a new video. In this new series of video that I will be making, I will analyze some specific fights where I will try to break down the game plan of the winner and try to answer the questions how and why the fighter won. So if you like this kind of content, be sure to smash the like button and feel free to comment in the section below if there is some specific fight you would like for me to break down. Now, let's get right into the video. In UFC 196, Nate Diaz shocked the world by submitting Conor McGregor in the second round, so let's get back to that moment and rewatch how Nate did it and why the notorious one lost. The fight was scheduled at welterweight, and it was the first fight that Conor ever fought in that welterweight division, and as much as I respect the fact that Conor never shies away from a challenge, he should not have taken that short notice fight at welterweight because the guys there are bigger and can take the shots from Conor in a much durable fashion, unlike the featherweights that he had fought in the UFC to that point. I personally feel if a fighter wants to make a transition like that, he or she should have more time to prepare for that weight, like Conor did for the second bout against Nate, and not jump into a weight class that they never fought in only a couple of weeks' notice. And because of that, Nate had a slight advantage before the fight even started, and the fact that he keeps himself on a triathlon shape all year, we can always count on his gas tank to be on top, so the short notice fight was not an issue for Stockton's own Nate Diaz. And with that being said, let's jump right into the fight. As soon as the fight started, the first question was who would take the center because both Nate and Conor are pressure fighters. Both of them met on the center, but Conor started switching stances immediately from a taekwondo stance, which made Nate take a few steps back so he could start to make the read on how Conor moves. Remember that to this point in his career, Conor was still very taekwondo based and he would look for the spinning attacks over and over again. But the downsides with the spinning attacks is that they take a lot of energy, and because Conor had moved up 2 weight classes, the spinning kicks would hurt Conor more than they would hurt Nate. After only a minute into the first round, it was clear that the game plan from Conor was to make Nate engage in the pocket and counter him with the left hand like he had done against pretty much everyone to that point. The left hand of Conor connected a lot of times in the first round, because Nate would almost always keep his chin up in the air and throw either a check hook or the famous Stockton slap as the counter. But Conor, being the faster fighter, would always beat him to the punch and would win almost every exchange. Just take a look at Nate's chin. He is pretty much open for Conor's left hand and should, in my opinion, either take a step back or to the side to make Conor miss, or keep his right hand much higher instead of just leaning back, because that was obviously not working. It was very clear that Conor wanted the early knockout because he was throwing everything into the punches, and Nate, being the more experienced fighter, stayed composed and took Conor's best shots because he knew that Conor would not keep that pace for 5 rounds. In the first minutes, Nate did not throw very much as he usually does, but that was, in my opinion, a smart move from Nate. He took his time and tried to figure out how Conor moved and which feints and techniques he liked to throw. Being the durable fighter he is and having the chin and gas tank he has, this was a wise defensive tactic from Nate, and as the offense, he tried to keep the distance by using his jab and to set up the 1-2 that he would be successful with in the second round. Nate would also be smart to use a lot of lateral movement to keep himself always a moving target, and that is key when fighting a power puncher like Conor. But we all know that it is very tiring to stick and move, but Nate was very smart and moved at the right times. Although I feel that Nate spent too much time in the pocket in the first round and was taking a lot of damage and should, in my opinion, use the lateral movements much more. Because when he moved away and stuck his jab, then Conor would miss. This is one of the many reasons why Nate is so fun to watch, because he can stand and take his opponent's best shots and still come forward. Conor won the first round without any doubts, but Nate was never close of getting finished, and I think Conor did not count on Nate to take his punches so good, because Conor was so used to knocking everyone out with the same punches. The second round started where the first round ended, with Conor moving forward and throwing a lot of different strikes, and he kept trying to knock Nate out with that left hand. But Nate, being so durable that he is, took it all and kept coming forward. I could just imagine how frustrated Conor was, because he was blasting Nate with his best shots and Nate was still standing and throwing back. After a couple of minutes in the second round, Conor's output was reducing and his head movement became much slower, and you can see that his punches were not as hard. Now, Nate was getting himself into the fight and began to increase his output and walking Conor down. Nate looked much fresher than Conor, and we could all see that Conor was slowing down, and it was a very smart strategy from Team Diaz to use Conor's output against him, and believing that Nate would survive the early storm and that would make Conor tired. This 1-2 from Nate was what would be the beginning of the end for Conor, and yes, Nate rocked him, but at this point, Conor was just gassed. He was flat-footed and was not as fluid in his movements like he was in the first round and in the beginning of the second round, and his body language were telling us, and especially Nate, that he was tired. Now, for the first time in the fight, Nate was the hunter and he was pressing Conor in a fashion we never saw coming, and we all know that Nate can keep this pace for 5 rounds without any doubts. When Nate sensed Conor slowing down, he did in my opinion the right thing of not letting him catch his breath by keeping the pressure and high volume. This was basically the last Conor had in his gas tank, which Nate took under the chin and landed again the 1-2 that would make Conor shoot for a takedown in desperate mode. When this happened, it was clear to us all that Conor was done. He shot for a takedown because he was tired, and that would have been a good choice if he could get the top position and put his weight on Nate and try to rest the round out. But Nate, being the superior grappler, got the submission and the show was over. This fight did teach us a lot about Conor McGregor, that he might have a cardio issue, which is genetic in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, Conor has very good cardio, but not on that next level like a fighter like Nate Diaz, and what made Conor gas so much was the fact that he threw so much power and volume in the first round and the early second round without getting the knockout, and he threw a lot of spinning kicks that would also gas him out. And of course, the weight. He was not used to the bigger opponents and was not used to carrying that extra weight. Or as Conor would put it, he was not efficient with his energy, and I agree with that. Nate on the other hand did the perfect job and stayed calm and composed and did ride out the early storm, and when he sensed Conor slowing down, then he took the fight to him, and that was a great game plan from Team Diaz. Nate has one of the best chins and gas tanks in the game, so he can afford to take someone's best punches, and when that person is slowing down, then pick the pace up, and that's what we saw that night. In their second bout, Conor made the right choices to spend more time trying to get his body used to the new weight class, and in the next episode, I will break down their rematch. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe to get notified when I put on my next videos, and press the like button. Until next time.